Hey, welcome back everybody. I decided to build a bow that as soon as this thing released and I heard about it, I'm like, you know what? The features that this thing offers was pretty enticing, so I finally decided to just do it. I ordered this from Podium Archer, Mr. MFJJ, and got it in the mail. They can ship these Darton bows out to you. So anyways, we're going to build this whole bow today. So pour some coffee. It's going to be a long one. I will timestamp the video down below so we can go into each section if you want to review something. I will say this up front, I am not a certified bow technician or anything like that. I do know my way around a bow, but so follow along. This is how I do it. There's a lot of different ways to do stuff, like different knots for tying in peeps and all kinds of stuff. But let's talk about the specs on this bow. So, Darton Sequel 35 ST squared or ST2, as you'll see here on the limbs. And I got this in the OD green, black limbs. It's got the BBS cams in it, and it does come with speed mods. I'm not going to put these in, and you can drop this down to 75% let off. I'm also not going to be doing that. I prefer a little bit lighter hold, and I'm fine with the speeds of the standard mods that this comes with. Let's look at some specs. In this little owner's manual, there are specs for the Sequel 31, 33, and 35, along with other bows that they offer. Now, I own, just a couple months ago, I purchased the Darton Sequel 31, and I've been shooting this. I love this bow. This is last year's model, so it doesn't have some of the adjustability, the tunability that this year's model, the 2025s, I guess we'll call them, have. And my son has, he picked up the Darton Sequel 33, and he has been shooting this bow. I have never owned Darton. I've owned Hoyt and PSEs and Bears and Alpine, Martins, Golden Eagle, a bunch of different bows over the years. But when I was over at a local archery shop and I picked up actually the Sequel 31 and I shot it, I was like, wow, this is nice. I like this. And I took my deer with that bow this year, my 31. My son took his deer this year with the 33. We just started shooting some indoor league. Never done that before. I've done a lot of outdoor competition stuff, but never just shot indoor Vegas targets. So that was kind of a little bit of a learning experience for me, but it was a lot of fun. And I thought, you know, I've always been a little bit of a longer axle to axle guy. So when the 35 was announced, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to do it. So looking at the specs, let me get out my cheesy scale here. This scale is usually within a couple of ounces. It's not super accurate, so according to the specs, this is supposed to weigh 4.75 pounds. Let's see how close we come. Now, there's no rest on this. That says 4.76. 4.76. Again, this is not super accurate, but I am going to call that good enough. It usually bounces back and forth with a few ounces. Let's measure axle to axle. So from the center there down here, I'm getting 35 and an eighth. And the specs are 35 and 1/8. So in spec, perfect. So some of the tunability that really caught my eye is you've got a bolt right here. You can add a turn or two to this bolt and in or out, add pressure or take pressure away from one limb, or you can move this bolt over to the other side and do the same thing here. So not only does it have it on one end, but it does have it on both ends. So this is for paper tuning, right? If you've got the arrow coming off and it's kicking, you know, knock left, knock right, whatever, you can add or subtract pressure to the right limbs or the left limbs, and you want to do both. You know, if you're doing the right side, do the right side on both sides, or take it out, put it on the other side, and you can you can adjust the pressure on these limbs, and that's going to move your cams just a little bit, and that's going to get you shooting through the paper nice and square without having to shim the bow. Now these are shimmed, so it's got 2 red shims and a black shim on both ends here. So you can buy different shims if you need them, but the adjustability of this here, I don't see any reason to have to shim this bow. We're going to find out, but okay. The other really cool thing is you've got a yoke adjustment here. This is basically a turnbuckle, and there's a little set screw right in here, and you can break that set screw loose, and then you can twist this turnbuckle and add or subtract twists in your cables. And it's got those at both ends. So you can put this in time. Really, really easy. You don't have to own a press. You know, break the bow down, put twists in your cables, hook them back up. You know, you don't have to do any of that. You can just do it right here. Now, these cams here, these BBS cams, they have 2 timing marks on them. They've got one that's marked with an H and one that is marked with a T. The H is for hunting, and that is for this bow here. The T is for target bows. So the target line that they offer that use these cams, they're going to line up differently than what's on the Sequel. Integrated rest, that's cool, because I just last week put that on my Sequel 31, and today I'm taking it off. And I just got that thing dialed too. So what are you going to do? The grip on the Darton Sequel 31 is excellent. I love the angle. I love the feel. It's a really good feeling bow. It's very well balanced. All 3 of these are, by the way. It feels really good. I did put a little bit of grip tape on the 31 and the 33, just because I live in Western Washington, and hunting season here, it is piss and rain all the time. And so just having a little bit of texture, that's all I wanted, was just some texture. I didn't do it for any other reason other than when it's pouring down rain and your hands are wet and they're cold. And holding on to metal is a little bit slippery, so I just wanted some texture there. I will probably put some of that on this bow as well, but I have to order some first because I don't have any right now. The strings that these come with, they're a natural string. They do not have any dyes or anything in them. The theory behind that is impregnating the strings with other things like dyes will cause them to stretch over time as that stuff gets pushed out and it moves. In theory, it makes sense. I couldn't tell you if that's true or not. We'll take their word for it. Of course, it comes with some serving here in the string, so it's already split for your peep. We're going to tie in a cable here for our rest. Oh, the other thing. Okay, these also come with the button head, basically a screw in the axle. The previous year Sequels all had the E-clips, and those are kind of a pain. I've had this bow broke down several times. Just working on some shimming and stuff, and those E-clips, I've had to put some new ones in it. They are a pain. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's not as convenient as this. So, big thumbs up to Darton. I think that they knocked it out of the park. I guess let's get busy. So the first thing I did was I had to set the draw length. For me, that's 28 inches. So you'll notice there's a little peg right here. And you've got numbers up here. This is your draw stop. So mine, when you look at the chart, mine needs to be set on number 3. And this peg here, I'll show you the other side of the cam. You set these numbers, they have to be identical. So if this is 3, this has to be 3. Now, looking at the other side of the cam, that little peg is right there on number 3. You can see all the slots in here. So what you do is, there's a screw here, here, and here. You just take those out, rotate your cam around, find the numbers you're looking for, and that'll put you right where you need to be, as long as your draw stop is also set on number 3. You also want to get these outer screws as far out as you can on that module so that you don't have one end that's not sucked up tight to the cam here, one end or the other. So you move these out to the furthest spot that it'll allow you to put those in and just tighten them down. All right, here's the new rest, the one I just took off my other bow. I did put a new piece of cord on here. So this is the integrated style. And I've got everything set back to its 0 marks in here. So now we can just set this in here and get it set up. I'm just going to try to set this as low to the riser as I can for now. And you've got this little mark right here, and you've got a little Allen set right here. And you don't want this super tight because it has to be able to dial. So you've got your dial right here. You want to be able to move that freely. That's a little bit on the tight side, so I'm going to back this up just a smidge and then turn this dial. You don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too tight. There we go, that feels good right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snap an arrow in here and stand this up in the full firing position. And I want to see where I'm at with my burger holes looking through this side here, and I'm low. So actually what I need to do is come up a little bit with this rest, and my arrow's fairly level right here. That's pretty close to being level. All we're doing is just kind of doing a rough tune, right? So we're not, you know, we'll do the rest of this stuff later. All the micro tuning stuff. So I'm just going to loosen that up, and I'm just going to eyeball this thing until I'm about the center of those burger button holes, which is going to be right about there. That's really, really close. Just a snug. Make sure you can still dial it, which I can. That looks pretty good right there. Then I'm going to take this piece here. That's also got my marks on it. And that just goes in on the side of it right here. I'm just going to give this, just snug it up just a little bit. I don't want to make it tight yet. Okay, that's level, up to the firing position. That is level. Okay, so I know things are level right where they're at, so I'm not going to move the arrow. Leave it right there. Take my levels off. I'm just going to push this up into the firing position here. All I'm going to do is just eyeball it. Just hold it out in front of me and just eyeball it. And all I want to do is look through these. I want to see the arrow going right dead center through those burger button holes there. And they are. Now, before I do anything else, I want to know that that arrow is through the center line of the riser, and it is not. So I need to move the arrow in toward the bow. The other thing you can do is just take a tape measure and put it on 13/16. And I am not on 13/16. There's a little Allen right down here. And you just need to loosen this up just a half a turn or so. And I'm just going to dial this in because there's a center line shot on this riser here. And I want it going right down that center line. And I also want to double check and put it at 13/16. We are center 13/16. Okay. Yeah. And in here, you've got a center line shot. So we're really close right there. Another thing I like to do is put my strings in the center of the riser, the center of the rest, just kind of get back and right from the cams, right straight on down through, and that arrow should almost be hidden by the string, and we're right there. The next thing I want to do is I want to tie a knock set on this thing. So I need my string. Where's my string? So I know this is pretty close here. So I'm going to take, I don't know, 12, 16 inches of some serving here. And we're just going to put this down, do one loop, two, I don't know the name of knots, double overhand, I think. I'm just going to put it right here at the bottom of the knock. Pull that nice and tight. Because I know that everything's pretty square, so any minor adjustments up or down can be done with the rest at this point. So I want to really make that tight, and then I'm going to tie in a little bit under, 1 and 2. And then again on top, 1, 2. At this point I can get the arrow out of my way. And then back under, 1 and 2. And you don't need a bunch, right? I usually do about 4 to 6 typically, but get your lighter. And what I like to do is I cut these tag ends off with about 1/4 of an inch, roughly. Boink. I'm going to cut them both at the same time, I suppose. Okay. Then I just burn them down. Okay, knock sets there. I can change this if I have to, but that's a starting point. I have never shot with tying one below and one above, but today I'm going to try it. Now you do need to leave yourself a little bit of a gap in here, about 1/16 of an inch or so. I want to be able to just move this arrow a tiny bit and just bump it up against either side of those knots right there. So that's pretty good there. I got about 1/16 of an inch. Always burn with the flame going away from your strings. Okay, those are looking good. Just a tiny bit of movement in there. All right, this is coming along. Next, let's do the sight. So I popped this off the other bow. This is the black gold dual track. It has 2 pins in it, and it's been a really nice sight. I do like it. I do have my quiver mount. I run the G5 quiver. Just a quick snap on here. So I'll leave that there. In the future, I will probably switch. I've also considered going with just a dovetail bar on here, but that'll come down the road if I choose to do that. So let's mount this. Okay, that's on there nice and tight. I need to split the strings a little bit to get the rest set up the rest of the way and get my peep in there too. For that, it is best to have a press. You can do it without one, just not as easy. Before you press a Darton bow, there are limb lock bolts right here and right here. You got to crack these loose. And then you really should take a minimum of 4 turns out of the weight. You take 4 turns off the limbs. Darton does not recommend putting their bows in presses without taking at least 4 turns out. I'm not looking to, you know, collapse this thing way down or anything. You don't need to do that. Just need to take enough off to be able to split the strings. What I'm going to do now is just split the cable here and get my piece of serving through there. Sometimes it's really handy to have a plastic pick, one that's not going to hurt anything. You don't want to damage your cables or strings or anything. All I want to do is just separate the cable just enough to get the cord through it. Okay, so I've got that in there now. When this gets drawn back, this is the down cable. That's another thing. You got to make sure that you're on your down cable, not your up cable. So, and the easiest way to tell is just to flex your string a little bit. You'll see this cable goes up and this cable goes down. Make sure it's on your down cable. All right, now it's time to put in the peep sight. I'm putting in the Hamskea Raptor. This is going to go in based on the angle, the axle to axle length, and the draw length. So that's going to go in on a 40-degree mark. They go 2 different ways based on your draw length and the axle to axle. They come with a little chart that you need a magnifying glass to read. And if you look at it, you'll figure out which way you'd like this to go. So that's looking pretty good right there. I'm going to leave this piece of serving in here. I'll be adjusting this, I'm sure. Nearly positive I'll be adjusting it. In fact, if you take a tape measure and you measure your old peep sight to the center of your D-loop, I'm right about 6.5. So if I come here and go 6.5, I'm going to be in the neighborhood right there. What I'm going to do is just around the center of this peep, I'm just going to put a couple of knots on this thing just for safety reasons when I go to shoot it, that I'll be able to still slide it, but it's not going to pop out and hit me in the face. So it should still, yeah, I can still slide it, but it's going to keep it in there. We'll retie this later once we get it set right where we want it. I'll take off this tag ends here. I don't need those. Okay, and again, leave your serving in here just in case something happens. You can always find the equal amounts of string on either side. Pretty important. Let's tie a D-loop on here. So I like to cut my D-loop material at 4 3/4 inches. You really want to fuzz out this end here. I already did this end. And then you melt this down. Try your best not to catch it on fire. Just keep it spinning, keep that flame moving. If it catches on fire, try to blow it out right away. I've been told many times that that it weakens it gets brittle. You don't want that if you catch it on fire. I do like to try to get a fairly good button of melt on this thing too. Just flatten that out a little bit. So I'm a right-handed shooter, so I'm going to go here and then bring this up and over, cross it. So on this side now, and then back up through itself, just like so. Now for the other side. So coming across the back side like this, up and around this side here. I'm trying to keep my fingers out of the way so you can see this. And then it crosses over. And then back up through itself here. I need a little bit more slack. Like so. There we go. I'm sorry, I know it's really hard for you guys to see this, and especially black on black doesn't make it any easier. I highly recommend getting these pliers here. They're awesome pliers for D-loops and other things. And I definitely want to make sure that these knots are close together. I'm going to take a little bit of slack off the press here, so I want to see where things are lining up. Got my peep over here. I need to turn my D-loop a little bit. Trying to keep things nice and lined. And then give it a good little squish. Trying to keep those knots nice and close. Nice and tight. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to draw this back now. I'm going to step outside so I've got a target to, just in case anything goes wrong. First time D-loop. And I'm going to see where that sight needs to move. I've got my peep where I want it. Now I take a couple feet of serving material here. And I'm going to start by laying, this is the tag end, I'm going to lay this up toward the top of the bow. And right down below where the string splits here. I'm just going to lay that right there. And I'm going to start wrapping up toward the top of the bow, but up over this serving here. Keeping it as tight as I can the whole time. I usually go around about 6-7 times or so. Then I'm going to take this serving and I'm going to pull on it, really cinch that down, and I'm going to take this serving now and get it out of my way and keep on wrapping. Always trying to keep this pinched so nothing's coming loose here. Okay, so now I put the loop through the center here, and all I'm going to do is start looping this up around that piece of cable. Sometimes you need 5 hands. Okay, now I've got it up to basically the center of the peep here. So I'm going to wrap it through the center here. I usually go a couple of times. Make sure you're keeping that tight. And then I'm going to go back down through this side here that we just came up on. And I'm going to pull that over to the center here. Then I'm going to start wrapping up on the opposite side. So this side here kind of looks like a little bit of a zebra with that winding up here, and this side will look the same. Okay, so I've wrapped both sides now. Up this side, tied that, down this other side here. Now I've wrapped this about 6 times or so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a loop here, and I'm going to take this tag in and feed it back through the loop. And I'll do that about 6 or 7 times. At this point, if I want to, I can also get rid of that little tag piece there because it's kind of messing me up. That's okay. Two. Now I'm going to take my tag end here and I'm going to lay it back toward the sight, and I'm going to start wrapping that. So I'm wrapping that up, and on this side the stuff that we just wrapped is now unwrapping, keeping it tight, keeping pressure on it until that is unwrapped on that side, and there it is. So now I'm just left with this tag end that I can now pull and cinch that up. That's tight. This one's tight. Another thing that works really well, if you got a pair of hemostats, these things are awesome. You can pinch that tag in real good, give it a couple twists around there, and give that a nice good snug. And same with this one here. Get your handy dandy lighter. Burn that right down to the serving that you just put on. Peep is on, D-loop is on. Get rid of that little tag. Now I do want to check it one more time, and I also have to set the timing here on this rest. What I'll do is I'll set the timing on the rest here on the drawboard. Next thing we're going to do is tie in our cable here for the rest. What I did is I just burned the end of this here so it looks a lot like the D-loop that you do. I'm going to pull that right up to the string there, and then I'm going to do some what I will call double overhand knots. I will do about 4 or 5 on the top side and 4 or 5 on the bottom side. And you can do, you can do more. I've seen people that do like 10 or 12, and that's fine, it doesn't hurt. But you're not lifting a whole lot of pressure either, so it's not like it's going to move. And that string just in there by itself is actually quite hard to move. Okay, we've got those tied in right there. So that's good to go right there. Then we can put this in the drawboard. On the back side of this rest is a little Allen key, and it allows, you can add tension or take tension away. It allows this cord to pull through, and I do want a little bit of tension there so it's not pulling through real easy. That's going to help set the timing on this thing. So let's draw it back. So once I draw this back to a certain point, there's a provision here to put this bar in. That way, if anything happens, the D-loop comes undone, whatever, it'll catch it, stop the bow from exploding, but also keep an arrow in it. Safe direction, obviously. It's just aiming at a wall. So you can either hand crank this press or do it this way. Put the tool in there, just in case. Now, I want to know what my timing is looking like on each side. Just touching here, just touching down there, we're in good shape. Let's see how close we are to a 28-inch draw length. So 28, really close. It's not exact, but it's really, really close. I want to get this lift timed here. Right up under here, next to where the string comes out, there's a little set screw up inside here. And that's what causes the tension on this So the way I've got it set right now is when I draw this back, you lock it up in place here. When I draw it back, the last 1.5 inches or 2 inches or so is when it just pops up the rest of the way. That's all I'm looking for. And when you fire it, it'll just drop down out of your way. Shall we see what it does through paper? I never get these right the first time. Well, I shot it once off camera. That is a perfect bullet hole. Let's see if I can do that again. Probably not. Nothing ever works out that well the first time for me. But we shall see. Whew. Well, hello. Absolute perfect. That never happens. This bow, and I've only shot it twice, it feels really, really nice. It's got a nice, real nice draw cycle to it. Very smooth. Comfortable. Another bullet hole. Wow. And here I was hoping I was going to show you how we could play with the limb tension screws and the turnbuckles and okay. I guess that answers that, doesn't it? Now, sighting it in and stuff, I'll have to go sight it in, but I'm just going to try it again, just to make sure. Can't ask for better than that. Just another bullet hole. Okay, let's level up the sight. All right, so I've actually got some string levels on. I've got a level right here. I broke these loose just a little bit because this was off just ever so slightly. Okay, that's good. Make sure these are snugged up here. That's spot on, string level still on, sight housing is off just a little bit. Yeah, I need to move my ring just a skosh. Okay, I've got that on, that's still on, string level's still on, so we are level there. Then I will check my third axis next. The third axis was off just a little bit. And the third axis was off just a smidge. Roll this forward. I did make a small adjustment to it. We'll level, we're nice and level there. A little bit more. Yep, level there. So that's going to get us really close. I will verify this actually shooting uphill and downhill to see where I'm at. So things change when you're at draw, but that's going to get me really, really close. I actually like to set this up in the field. Just to make sure that things are what they seem to be. The last thing I've got here is this little piece of tag end cord for the rest. I like to leave myself a little bit, but I don't need this much just hanging around out there. And I'm going to leave myself an inch, 1.5 inches, something like that. There we go. Little tag end there. I will probably have to play around with the weights on this because it is a totally different bow. And I do like my wrist straps. I know some people don't, but I do. Just enough to where I don't have to worry about my bow coming out of my hands. That's going to be good right there. That's actually pretty good right there. Just close my eyes, kind of move the bow around, let it settle, open my eyes and see if I'm really close to level. If I am, great. You know, if the bow's way this way or way that way, then I would want to change out some weights. That's actually really close right there. So I'm going to run with that. Timing looks good. Draw stops, cams, everything is looking good. It's shooting bullet holes. So I'm going to call this done. And now I got to go sight it in. And once I get it sighted in, then we'll shoot some groups with it. That'll be a different video. I'll shoot some groups and we'll do some broadhead tuning and different things like that. I want to do some walkback tuning on it, see what things are doing. I got a bear shaft I can shoot. And anyways, we'll get into that in a different video. But this is the Dream Bow. I like it. Darton knocked this out of the park, in my opinion. Very nice bow, guys. Very nice bow. The Sequel 35, ST2. I love it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys again real soon.